So, as I've said a few times, a goal for our class is deeper or deep learning. Now, what is deep learning versus the other term, superficial learning? I'm going to talk in more detail on each point for deep learning, but let's compare deep learning to surface learning. I know I've been guilty of surface learning in my academic career where I'm just trying to regurgitate the points, remember the stuff long enough to pass a test, and from there I don't remember a thing. That's what surface learning is about. We really are just trying to earn a grade, whereas in deep learning, we're trying to focus on making lasting learning. It's lasts for a lifetime, hopefully. In the surface learning, it's the passive learning model where the professor is the distributor of knowledge and you're just supposed to eat it up, sort of like the video with the adult learning theory video. Whereas in our deep learning, it's active. You're engaged in your own learning, and that's what I hope to do in this class. With the surface learning, it's very small bits of material, or atomistic, I have a hard time saying that word, versus holistic, which is we're looking at the big picture. Another way to look at it is we're looking at the trees in the surface, whereas in deep, we're trying to look at the big view of things. We'll talk more about these two theories a little bit in this lecture or talk, and then I think next week I'll talk about it even more, where we're talking about the difference between entity theory and incremental theory. I'll describe those in just a bit. In our deep learning, we want the material to be based on something that's meaningfulness and has mindfulness in it, whereas surface learning classes are just mindless things that we do because the teacher makes you do them. And that means it's an unpleasant chore, can't stand this class, and hopefully with a deep learning class, it's an enjoyable experience. Remember, the purpose of this class is to teach you how to teach, and hopefully through what I'm doing in this class, I'm modeling these behaviors. Well, we'll see. So, Tag and I have this article in the class if you want to read it. It talks about making meaning, which means we want to have personal significance in the things that we are doing in the class. So as a teacher, you want to set it up and figure out what the students are interested in. And so some ways to do that is maybe have a survey of your students, find out what they're interested in. And again, in our athletic training classes, a lot of times it's fairly simple. You want to be an athletic trainer. I want to learn how to do injury assessment better if you're in an assessment class, then injury assessment or evaluation class. Makes sense. Maybe they want to focus on a specific type of body part. So whatever the student wants to learn more about, we want to make sure that it is significant for them. As I was talking about previously in the Savinsky book, make those connections between what the student already knows and what is yet to be known. Make that bridge, connect to previous things. We also want to design our classes so it lasts beyond just like in our course, 6 weeks. I hope that the material that you're learning in this class and all the other classes in this graduate program will affect you 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road. And I hope this class and a graduate program changes who you are, the way you think, the way you see things, the way you act, and who you are as a person. Because that means it's gotten within you. It's deep, and that's the word deep, is it's getting down into the core of your being. So how do we do these things? How do we make learning as meaning making? So I want to focus the connecting the course materials to what you know already. And one of the low-risk activities, I'm going to ask you your teaching experience at this point. What do you want to know about this in your current or your desired or future profession? Do you want to teach? If so, what type of teaching would you like to do? And how would the design of this class, and again, we're we're limited because we're an online environment, and we just got to keep that in mind because you got to know what kind of environment we are in. Will help you most in your lifetime of learning, because one of the things in athletic training is that we should be lifelong learners, and that's one of the purposes of doing the continuing education courses, or just general continuing education, is that we always need to learn more. So in this particular set of lectures, I will have several I'll have one forum post as a low risk assignment, and I'll have a lot of these questions I'm going to go over in this class, or in this section of presentations. I don't expect you to answer every single question, but I just want to get you to think through some of these points for this class to have a different focus, hopefully, than other classes, that it will cause you to think about how you learn and how you want your class to be designed. The other thing about deep learning, it's built on the incremental self theory rather than entity theory. Now, what the heck is that? That's a mouthful. DeWick proposed what's called a growth mindset, and basically, and I'm going to go into this a little bit more, I think, next week, about growth set versus the other theory, which basically says that the growth mindset believes that you can continue to grow in your intelligence. It's not set when you're born. The opposite of this would say that I'm only as smart. I'm not that smart. Doesn't matter how hard I work. I can't get any better. An example for me that just kind of made sense to me when I first heard of this is the person who says, "I just can't do math. My brain doesn't work that way." That is the complete opposite of the growth mindset. Where the growth mindset, a person believes no matter, I can learn. There's no limitation to what I can learn. If I work harder, I'll do better at something. If I want to succeed, I'll try hard. The person sets learning goals. I want to do this. My learning goals back when I was an undergraduate student at the beginning was I just need to pass this class. As I got more competence in my abilities, I want to earn an A. And then it moved from, I don't want to just earn an A. I want to understand this material and master the material. That's setting learning goals after you move away from just getting a grade. And that's one of the things I want to challenge each one of you. I don't want you to focus on the grade. I want you to focus on learning. Focus on, if I learn the material, I'll get the grades. And that's true. Just focus on understanding the material, doing the best working your tail end off, and continue to work hard. That last bullet point there is pretty critical. It says, the person with a deep mindset responds to failure with increased effort and modifies strategies. The person who does not have a growth mindset, dyslexic, so I flip words. The person who does not have a growth mindset, when they fail, they think it's because either the teacher was against them or I'm just not smart enough. Feedback does not help them. They do not make changes. They just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. Whereas a person with a growth mindset responds to failure. It must be me. I got to work harder. I got to do things different. They take the feedback and they use that feedback to get better at what they're doing. And they'll change the strategies that they have because they know it's not them. It's not because they're dumb. It's just because they just didn't understand what was required at that time. And they'll ask the professors, the teachers, for help to understand how they can improve. One of the things we'll talk about in this class is what we can do as professors, teachers, mentors, to foster a deep learning environment in our coursework. We'll talk about that next week. So some necessary ingredients for us to develop deep learning are intrinsic or internal goals. And for each one of these, I'm going to have a brief presentation describing what each one of these are. I may have combined one or two of these. But for each one of these bullet points in the next preceding presentations, there'll be specific questions that I'll post in the one low-risk assignment form and ask you those questions. Again, you don't have to answer every single question. If you want to, feel free to do that. Some of them I would like to know, and I may put a little asterisk to it because it may help me on the further design of this course and where I take some of the lectures in this course. So intrinsic, which is another fancy college way of saying internal goals. What are your internal goals for this class? Other thing is frequent, connected, authentic practice, practice, practice. We have to practice to get better, especially with skills like taping ankles. But we also have to practice in writing papers. We need to have consistent, continuous, interactive feedback. That's feedback on how you're doing. How can you continue to get better? Long-term horizon. What that means is, how's this going to affect me down the road? And the last point to get deep learning in a class is engagement in a community of practice. Is the second or third time we've talked about this. What that means is us in a class right now, we're engaged in a community of learning. We're a community of learning. We should see this class and other classes that you're in as a place that we can learn together this material. There's no reason why you can't work with other people in this class and other classes on assignments. You still have to do your own work, but there's no reason why you guys can't help one another with this. And I'm pretty open even with some of the bigger assignments in this class. Some will fit and some may not. You may want a tag team. You may want to do a group assignment with one of the bigger assignments in this class. I'm open to that. You just have to let me know. And we'll talk about the self-determination theory again, where part of that is students having the autonomy on what you do in this class and in your classes. So again, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to briefly talk about intrinsic goals. And we'll talk about that for a few minutes.